Hello everyone, I just wanted to share my thoughts about the awesome weekend that we had. Of course, they were like, one was in Arm Wars and the other one was Texas Arm Wrestling League event, and Brzenk made it awesome. And before the matches, I had predictions. I said Bozhidar was gonna beat Vlad right arm, and Vlad was going to beat him left arm, and this both happened. And I said Yanis was going to beat Jeff Hale. This also happened. And of course, these predictions were on my arm wrestling engine side, about near 2 weeks ago. And I favored Mindaugas over Tom Holland, but Mindaugas couldn't make it because of COVID. And so, what did I predict other than this? I also predicted Sasho beating RVJ Jr. That also happened. And the only one that I barely favored, was Brzenk against Dimitri Kachan, and I said 51-49, but John wins, I said, and John won 3-0, but the matches, the rounds happened really like 41-51, it was very close, very close matches. And people may not know Dimitri Kachan. In fact, I didn't remember him, but I was also in the same championships in 2015, where he took second place to Krasimir Kostadinov at the Bulgarian Europeans in 110 kilo. And it was the time that, Krasimir, following year beat both Levan and Gennady in supers, And so Dimitri to take second place after Krasimir was a, big thing, at the European Championships. So Dimitri is a very, very strong guy, and I'm sure that, he has been training since then, and I only believe that, he get, even better, he progressed. And it was a big question in my mind that, how the match would go. I really didn't think that Dimitri to control John's pronator, and it would be very hard John to control Dimitri's pronator either. I was thinking something very near to Chan Shaw versus John match, but the reason that I thought that way, I was thinking that Dimitri is stronger than Chance, but the reason that he was gonna go the same way, in my opinion, because I knew that John got better since that time, so I think Dimitri would beat the version of John that pulled against Chance. But since John got better since that time, I also talked with him, he also told me this, he's feeling better than that time. So I was thinking that now it's gonna be a close match and will look like the Chance match. It was almost look like that match. The only thing is Dimitri's hand felt stronger than I was expecting. When I said felt, I didn't feel it, but it's what I see that John was feeling. So but the only thing, even John lost his wrist, he didn't have the wrist control. Looks like Dimitri had the hand and wrist, but just if you realize that it was till the certain point, like every time he tries to go for the pin move, his wrist was going back, moving like that. So if Dimitri wanted to do a full force pressure, he would also lose his wrist. I mean, John didn't top roll him, but trust me, Dimitri also didn't have the full control over John's pronator, and that was stopping him. Before the match, John said that he was feeling his hand very good. He wasn't sure about shoulder and things like that, but now what I saw was that John lost his hand, and his arm and body pressure, saved him. Of course, John knows arm wrestling very well. He he knows when to do what, there are things that, you think that, you do, no matter when is the right thing, but it's not like that. You need to do the perfect timing. If you do a move in a wrong time, you lose the match. So John knows when to do what during the match. I have seen John making mistakes about entering the match, in a like a starting. He may choose a wrong start strategy, but once the match stops, John really understands, what he is dealing with, and he is doing the right things, So that what makes John, different than the rest. And so yesterday, John did everything possible, if you look at it, it doesn't look like in the most ideal way of arm wrestling, but I mean, that is why John is the greatest of all time, because the things may not go perfect all the time, but John knows, as I said before, if you want to beat John, you need to dominate him. You are not going to, you need to dominate him even in a, how to say, horsepower way or endurance way, when I say dominate. Like, you need to balance the match, and then your endurance needs to be like off the roof, like Devon Larratt. And or you need to be like Splenko, I'm not talking about the times that John was beating him, but the Splenko picked even more, after that time, and also beat John. Of course, it wasn't John's prime either, so John beat him very near prime Dennis, but Dennis didn't beat anything, near the prime John, whatever. So the subject is different. So what I'm just saying, I knew that what is the scary part about John. Either Dimitri has, of course, he has very good hand control, very educated forearm and everything, but maybe his arm strength wasn't that good, because once John applied the pressure, his arm opened up, kind of quick. Either he was exhausted because of the long match and he was out of gas at the end, or his arm strength compared to his forearm strength, is a little bit behind, So it just shows that, even if somebody takes John's hand, as long as you can control his pronator, he will still fight back, and he has a strong pronator, strong arm strength, and even the shoulder. He said that it wasn't so good, but it looks like handled very good yesterday, and so it is still very hard to beat John, especially around his weight class. Other than that, Sasho versus RVJ. RVJ is great arm wrestler, incredible genetic potential, but I don't really believe that this guy is at his limits, or potential limits. I don't think so. This when you are very, very strong, you always, not always, but most of the times, you save the day. You don't really need to crack your head to just look for perfection. I have been a guy that when I was 16, 17, my sister, my mother, they used to beat me. So like, I have never been an incredibly strong guy, and so I really had to really focus and push my limits mentally and physically to stay around the top for the last 30 years. So I don't think that RVJ is at where I am when we talk about the pushing the limits. This guy could be much better. Like, I wish I had chance to directly, not the online or something, but directly train with him and then share everything I know. Of course he knows a lot as well, but I am thinking that it will help him. But as we talk, many of the North American friends, get offended, when I talk about like from 55 to 90 kilo, the best arm masters are from WAF. I mean, and then they are like, how do you know this and that, but just that is the fact, if people still didn't understand this after watching Irakli, after watching Sasho, Zolev, Bozhidar, I mean, then I mean, come on, then there is a problem, not only about not knowing, but also you are being, I mean, whoever is thinking that way, a little bit stubborn, to accept the truth, So, so Sasho, I saw the matches. I must say that he was dominant, and later on he even top rolled, Rab, and I can say that the gap was like big, it didn't look so close, to me, but it doesn't mean that it can't be close, I mean, only thing that Rab needs to keep his head up, and then just instead of trying to find a reason, different than the real one about why he lost, and if you focus on like training and by considering what he learned this weekend, then I'm sure that he will get better. I will suggest you guys one thing. As I may know that I won my first world title in 1994. I'm talking about seniors, and the last one in 2018 is 24 years of period. So of course there has been times at the prime time, I was winning, but after that, with injuries and aging, win and loss, win, it went that way, depending on my health, injuries and everything. But the reason that I was able to reach the top, even after 24 years, it was because when I go competition, when I come back, I didn't focus on what I did good, I was focusing on where I made mistake, like, because even you win, I mean, you need to really look for where you made mistake, like because maybe at that time you saved the day, but next time you may not. So because I analyze opponents, and I'm sure the opponents are also analyzing their opponents. So if you don't find mistakes, weaknesses during the training, your opponent will find in the competition. So that is why we should not waste the training, and we should not focus on training only like physical thing, but the mentally, because our body will move as the mind commands, just do this, do that. So you need to look for perfection. So I'm sure that genetically, I believe that RVJ is superior to Sasho, in my opinion, and I believe that if he really pays the price, I think I mean, there is nothing impossible. If I had the genetic of RVJ, I would be focusing on, forget about Sasho, some bigger guys, like I mean Laletin or something, if I had that potential, I'm not talking about with the potential I have, but so other than that, I knew that Sasho's the supinated inner side pressure would put Rab out of position, and then Sasho would, these guys are not directly hooking you like this, but they are just holding. They have a very strong wrist flexor, especially from this lower tendon here, and then as a block, they just put you sideways. So when you here, you can use your brachii, radialis, lat, everything, you can use it. But once your arm is moving that way outside of your body, and then you can use them, as effective as when your hand is right front of your body, So they just put you out of position with the inner side pressure, with the supinated side pressure, and then they hook you. So that is why we should any kind of pronator, the moving this way, is not going to work against those guys. You need to make your pronator working with the pressure, not back way. You go back way, they will hit you sideways, and your arm will go that way. So your pronator should be mixed together with your side pressure to stop that guy, you know, those guys. Anyway, so other than that, Bozhidar with left arm, as I said, I knew he was gonna lose, and with right arm, yeah, with right arm, without strap, I knew that Vladislav would give him serious troubles, and he did it. You know, I saw Vladislav in Norway. He was in incredible shape, and it was kind of confusing me. I know that, you know, I predicted Bozhidar to win, but, you know, he didn't seem any weaker than Bozhidar, but because of the pulling styles, you know, I knew that Bozhidar would win. But the most effective move, especially in this strap, was the shoulder press of Vladislav that I saw from Bozhidar's face that, you know, it wasn't easy for him to control it, but it was very good for Bozhidar's the muscle memory to, you know, also handle it, because people are usually trying to get out of, you know, Bozhidar's hook. So most of the times his hand is training. Once it is in strap, it is easier to beat Bozhidar in hook than with the top roll. I'm not saying it's easy. Your chance is, you know, not even 1%, you know, to beat him in hook. I'm talking about generally people. But with a top roll within the strap, your chance is not even 1%. So for me, the best way is, you know, both Bozhidar and I know what's the best way to beat him, and it is a very, 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 very thin line, you know, between hook and top roll. You know, it's just like a pronator control, you know, side pressure that, you know, whenever you should not use your pronator in an active way against Bozhidar. Once you pronate, you are missing his pronator. So you go this way and his hand is so strong and you're stuck there, and then his wrist is not going anywhere. More you pull, more you open your arm, you know. So what you need to do, you need to block your pronator, not in a like fully pronated way, but in this way, like a neutral starting position. He will hit here, you are not gonna pronate, but you will block him here, and then because he's supinates, so you also put pressure with your wrist to his pronator, and then roll him a little bit. So because he's putting side pressure that way, when you roll him, when you turn his pronator totally, and when you roll him, you are opening his arm, you know, and then his pressure is getting less on your pronator, and then you need to go over his pronator to the side way. That is the way to beat him. I'm not saying that I can do that, because knowing something and being physically strong enough to do are two different things, you know. So with left arm, I knew he was Vladislav is going to beat him, you know. And other than that, what to talk? Yanis versus Jeff Hale, and Yanis versus Tom Holland, you know. Tom Holland was more exhausted compared to Yanis, as far as I know. I think Kaspars, I think his name, replaced Mindaugas, who couldn't come because of the COVID, and he gave some serious troubles to Tom Holland before Tom faced Yanis. And I'm not saying that, you know, if it didn't happen, Yanis couldn't beat him or something. I'm just like, you know, stating, you know, how the things happen, you know. So Yanis at 40 years, you know, his wrists, his pronator, his lat, his hand control, everything is just like almost perfect, you know, almost perfect. You know, the guy is just, he knows what he's doing, and I'm happy that he's motivated again. I know that he lost his motivation for some time, a few years ago, and after I won WAFORS at the age of 44, 45, you know, he told me that he was inspired Yeah, he never late. If I can do it 44, 45, he can also do, you know. And you know, people who are technical, who are using their power in a very educated way, smart way, they are still competitive, you know, even in the later um, ages, you know. Of course, people who has horsepower also can do, but you know, many of them are not that. How example, like people says, like for example, Kachan is a genetic freak, you know. But you know, Tat is about like probably 7, 8 years older than me, but he probably started arm wrestling almost 10 years after me. You understand? Like 10 years later. So he's pulling about 20 years while I'm pulling 30 years. So he's older than me, but I have 10 years more mileage on my arm. So, but also he's genetically so strong, he doesn't seem to be damaged so much, you know. He just, I mean, he's like a machine, you know. Whenever I think of him, you know, my elbow aches, you know, because of his joint pressure, you know. Not many people can deal with him. I don't think anyone can deal with him, you know, joint to joint in his weight. I don't think, you know, and probably he probably is the best joint for joint, you know, in a, like, just if you do a slow start, not like, you know, so explosive like Rustam, you know, until the muscles, you know, switch, you know, on, you know, or you know, thought the match is already over, because Rustam has incredible strong hand, and then he's explosive, you know, his explosiveness is incredible. So Todd never was able to really stop him. But I would like to see them when both are like in a hook after the match and slow start. I don't know if by the way, you know, I saw Sasho very well. You know, Sasho was great in Istanbul as well against Irakli, and also I saw him in hook against Rob. So most likely Kachan is in for sure, and Sasho is also probably in, but he has little bit injury, little bit, but he will see and decide. Not really injury, but a little bit pain, you know, and then he will tell me. But most likely in January we will have East versus West 2, already 2 matches set. John Brzenk versus Hajimrat Zolev, and Kachan versus Sasho. And I mean, it's incredible event. Last year, this year, I mean, looks like European side was dominant versus the North America. Hermes beat Mask 4-1, and the Hajimrat beat Hutchings 3-2, and Levan beat Dave 6-0, and Yanis beat Hale, and then Bozhidar beat Kitowski, and who else was there? And now Sasho beat Rob, you know. So this year, I mean in January, next year in January, and Kachan versus Sasho and John Brzenk versus Zolev, I kind of see the Americans favored against Eastern Europe pullers this time. This is my opinion for now, you know. It's very hard because Zolev is not built like Dimitri Kachan. Dimitri is not a, you know, a joke, you know. He's really serious opponent, you know, and he's very tall forearms and everything, you know. What was bothering John wasn't only the horsepower or Dimitri, but it was the hand control and everything, you know. So with the height of arm height of Zolev and the hand size and everything, I don't think that, you know, it will be trouble for John. I'm not saying that Zolev will not be trouble for John, but I'm talking about the arm height and the hand size I'm talking about. So John was very strong yesterday, but he was just put out of position. So that is like, I'm not sure if Zolev can do the same thing. And if John can control his hand and wrist, his arm will be even more effective. So that is why I'm thinking that, but just also we need to think this way, that, you know, when John beat Zolev, John was in incredible shape, and while Zolev was probably 85 kilo or something. Now he will be about 10 kilo heavier minimum. And so I think it will be closer, because last time it wasn't that close. Even Zolev got in his position, John was able to put him out of position. So, but this time John better not go into the bad position. He may not recover from there, you know, as he did in 2015, you know. Anyways, guys, this was a long one, and thank you for listening. You all take care of yourself.